I always thought my life was the epitome of suburban bliss. White picket fence, 2-car garage, a golden retriever named Max, and a wife who could have easily stepped out of a romantic comedy. Emily and I met in college. She was studying art history, and I was majoring in computer science. Opposites attract, they say. And for a while, it seemed like they were right. Our marriage was, by all outward appearances, perfect. We hosted barbecues on weekends, attended charity galas, and even took up couples yoga. My friends would often joke that we were the poster children for marital success. I'd chuckle and raise my beer, secretly agreeing with them. But as any seasoned programmer like myself knows, even the most flawless code can have hidden bugs. It all started with the cannoli. Emily had developed an inexplicable obsession with Italian pastries. Every Thursday, without fail, she'd bring home a box from Papa Giuseppe's bakery. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good cannoli as much as the next guy, but this was getting excessive. One day, out of sheer curiosity, I decided to swing by Papa Giuseppe's myself during lunch break. "Buongiorno," Giuseppe greeted me as I entered the quaint little shop. "What can I get for you?" "Just a coffee, thanks," I replied, scanning the display case. "My wife is a big fan of your cannoli. She comes by every Thursday." Giuseppe raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure it's our cannoli she likes? We're closed on Thursdays." My heart did a little flip. "Oh, must have mixed up the days," I said casually, though my mind was racing. That evening, when Emily waltzed in with her usual box of Thursday cannoli, I played it cool. "You should have told me you were going to Giuseppe's," I said. "I was in the area today." She blinked, a momentary flicker of surprise in her eyes. "Oh, really? I didn't think you liked their coffee." "Well, there's a first time for everything." She smiled tightly and changed the subject. "Now, I may be a tech nerd, but I'm not oblivious." Something was off. Over the next few weeks, I noticed more oddities. Late-night book club meetings, mysterious phone calls that she dismissed as telemarketers, and a new perfume that smelled suspiciously masculine. One afternoon, I decided to do a bit of sleuthing. Using some software I developed for a side project, totally legal. Of course, I managed to access her phone records. One number popped up repeatedly, a number I knew all too well. My father's. I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold beside me. This had to be a mistake. My dad and I weren't exactly close, but we maintained a cordial relationship. After my parents divorced, he'd thrown himself into his work, and we drifted apart. I needed confirmation. The following Thursday, I told Emily I had a late meeting. She feigned disappointment, and I almost applauded her performance. Instead of going to the office, I parked a few houses down and waited. Sure enough, around 7 p.m., a sleek black car pulled into our driveway. My father's car. "Well, isn't this a plot twist?" I muttered. I watched as they entered the house, laughing about something. The sight of them together ignited a mix of anger and a strange, almost amused disbelief. My wife was cheating on me with my father. It was so absurd, it could have been a storyline on a bad soap opera. I could have burst in, caused a scene worthy of reality TV, but where's the fun in that? No. If they wanted drama, I'd give them an Oscar-worthy performance. Over the next few days, I concocted a plan. If there's one thing I've learned from countless hours of coding, it's that the best solutions are elegant, efficient, and leave an impact. First, I needed to gather more evidence. I set up discrete cameras around the house, focusing on common areas. Sure enough, their clandestine meetings were recorded in high definition. I transferred the files to a secure drive, labeled Family Memories. Oh, the irony. Next, I reached out to my old college buddy Mark, who now worked in event planning. "I need to throw a surprise party for Emily," I told him. "Anniversary?" he asked. "Something like that." We set a date for the following Saturday. I invited all our friends, some of Emily's colleagues, and of course, my dear old dad. On the day of the party, Emily left early for a spa day. I winked and told her to enjoy herself. Little did she know, the real relaxation was yet to come. Guests started arriving around 6 p.m. The house was adorned with decorations, and a banner reading, "To New Beginnings," hung prominently in the living room. People mingled, sipping drinks and making small talk. At 7 p.m. sharp, Emily walked in, surprised to see everyone. "What's all this?" she exclaimed, feigning delight. I stepped forward, giving her a warm hug. "Just a little something to show you how much you're appreciated." She smiled, though I could see a hint of confusion. "Perfect." As everyone settled in, I tapped my glass. "Thank you all for coming tonight. Emily, you are the love of my life, and I wanted to celebrate you in front of everyone we care about." A chorus of awe filled the room. "But," I continued, "I have a confession to make. I've been working on a little project, a home movie of sorts, and I'd love to share it with all of you." Emily's eyes widened. "Oh, you didn't have to—" "Nonsense," I interrupted. "It's important to cherish our memories." I dimmed the lights as the projector hummed to life. The first few slides were harmless photos from our wedding, vacations, and candid moments. Then, the screen flickered to a video of Emily and my father, cozying up on our couch. Gasps echoed through the room. Emily's face turned as white as the projection screen. My father, who had been lurking near the back, choked on his drink. "Oops," I said with feigned surprise. "Must have mixed up the files." The room was thick with tension. Emily stammered. I can explain." I held up a hand. "No need. The visuals are pretty self-explanatory. My father tried to make a hasty exit, but two of my friends, burly guys from my college rugby days, casually blocked his path. "Leaving so soon?" I called out. "But the party's just getting started." He glared at me. "This is low, even for you." "Funny. I was thinking the same about your standards," I shot back. The guests didn't know where to look. Some stared at their shoes. Others glanced between us like spectators at a tennis match. "Well, folks," I announced, "I think this calls for a toast to family reunions and unexpected plot twists." A few nervous chuckles broke the silence. Emily fled the room, tears streaming down her face. I felt a twinge of pity, but brushed it aside. Actions have consequences, after all. As the guests began to disperse, muttering their apologies and excuses, Mark approached me. "That was intense," he said. "Intense?" "Thanks for your help," I replied, clinking my glass against his. "You okay?" he asked. I shrugged. "I've been better. But hey, at least I won't have to worry about awkward Thanksgiving dinners anymore." He chuckled. "If you need anything, let me know." "Actually," I said, an idea forming, "there is one more thing. Over the next few weeks, I went into overdrive. With Emily out of the house, she'd moved in with her sister. I had ample time to execute phase 2 of my plan. First, I filed for divorce, citing adultery with evidence that left little room for dispute. My lawyer assured me that the proceedings would be swift and decidedly in my favor. Next, I reached out to the board of my father's company. As it happened, I was a significant shareholder. Thanks to some inheritance from my late grandfather, my father's father, who never quite trusted his son's business acumen. I scheduled a meeting with the board members, presenting them with evidence of my father's ethical lapses. While his personal life was, well, personal, the misuse of company funds for personal escapades was a different matter. "Embezzlement is a serious charge," I said, sliding the documents across the table. The board members exchanged glances. My father had been sloppy, funneling money for lavish gifts and hotel stays. It didn't take much digging to uncover the paper trail. By the end of the meeting, it was decided that my father would step down as CEO. I, being the largest shareholder, was nominated to take his place. When the news broke, Emily tried to reach out. Voicemails, texts, even a handwritten letter slipped under my door. "I'm sorry," she wrote. "I made a terrible mistake. Can we please talk?" I considered responding, but decided against it. Instead, I forwarded the letter to my lawyer. One evening, as I sat in my new corner office, overlooking the city skyline, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," I called out. To my surprise, my father walked in. He looked older, more haggard than I'd ever seen him. "Congratulations," he said bitterly, taking a seat without invitation. "Thank you, though under unfortunate circumstances." He scoffed. "You think you've won, don't you?" I leaned back in my chair. "It's not about winning or losing. It's about accountability." He shook his head. "You always were self-righteous. Funny, coming from someone who thought sleeping with his son's wife was acceptable." He had the decency to look ashamed. "It just happened," he muttered. I raised an eyebrow. "Accidentally tripped and fell into my marriage, did you?" He glared at me, but said nothing. Look, I sighed. What's done is done. I'm not interested in dragging this out. I've ensured the company's future and, by extension, the livelihoods of all its employees. He stood up. You're just like your grandfather. Cold. Calculating. Maybe, but at least I have a moral compass. He left without another word. As for Emily, the divorce was finalized swiftly. She received a modest settlement, nothing close to what she might have expected. Rumors circulated that she was considering moving out of state to start fresh. One day, as I was leaving the office, I bumped into her outside the building. She looked different, worn out, her once vibrant eyes dull. Can we talk? She pleaded. I glanced at my watch. I'm late for a meeting. Please, she insisted, just 5 minutes. I sighed. Fine. We walked to a nearby park and sat on a bench. She fiddled with her hands, searching for words. I know I hurt you, she began. That's an understatement. She looked up, eyes glistening. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. Truly. I studied her face, looking for traces of the woman I once loved. Why did you do it? I asked. She sighed. I don't know. Your father was persuasive. It was exciting. Forbidden. I was stupid. I nodded slowly. Yes, you were. She wiped a tear. I lost everything. You. My reputation. My self-respect. I didn't respond. Do you think there's any chance we could, I don't know, be friends someday? She asked hopefully. I stood up. I think it's best we go our separate ways. She nodded, accepting the verdict. I understand. As I walked away, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The chapter was closed. In the months that followed, life took on a new rhythm. I threw myself into work, implementing changes that improved the company's performance. Employees were happier, profits increased, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of genuine accomplishment. One afternoon, Mark dropped by my office. How's the corporate world treating you? He asked, plopping down on the couch. Can't complain, I replied, closing my laptop. He grinned. Rumor has it you've become quite the eligible bachelor. The ladies at the gala couldn't stop talking about you. I chuckled. I'm not really looking for anything right now. Maybe you should. Not all relationships end in dramatic revelations, you know. True, I conceded. But for now, I'm enjoying the peace and quiet. He nodded thoughtfully. Fair enough. By the way, there's a tech expo next weekend. Thought you might be interested. Sounds like fun. Count me in. As he left, I gazed out the window, watching the city bustle below. My life had taken unexpected turns, some painful, others empowering. But through it all, I'd learned valuable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of a well-executed plan. And if there's one thing I knew for certain, it's that revenge might be a dish, best served cold, but success is the sweetest dessert. In the end, Emily and my father became footnotes in the story of my life, a cautionary tale of betrayal and consequence. I, on the other hand, had a new chapter to write, one filled with possibilities, untethered by the shadows of the past. And who knows, maybe someday I'll meet someone who appreciates both cannoli and honesty. Until then, I've got a company to run and a life to live, one witty comeback at a time.